everyone, my name is Shantel. Oh! Isn't that awkward? Well, anyways, my name is Shantel, and I know that we've been doing this for a very long time. I know that a lot of you are probably bored at home. Maybe you started to experience some tension at home because you just want some space. Maybe for you, you're just really missing out on the times that you hung out with your friends before COVID-19 because Zoom, FaceTime, phone calls, and texting just aren't cutting it anymore. And I want you to know that I understand. I'm right there with you in a lot of those feelings because I really miss my friends too, and I really miss the things that I used to fill my time with as well. One thing that's been very helpful for me throughout the situation is still trying to stay in contact with the people who are meaningful to me. So I have a friend, her name is Hannah, and we've known each other for a super long time. Our friendship started with a very awkward phone call conversation when we were in lower elementary school. I think we were like in second grade. So awkward. That was like before we had our own phones. Like I called her home phone. Like who does that? But anyways, we've known each other for a very long time. So we went to church together. Well, we still go to church together. We ended up going to high school together. We have the same friend group from high school. And now her fiance, my boyfriend, they love each other. So we see each other a lot and we enjoy each other's company a ton. And throughout our friendship, there's been a lot of growth for the both of us. And I've been so thankful for the ways that she's challenged me to grow, but then also the ways that we've been able to support each other through it. And with quarantine, there's just been a roller coaster of emotions, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that as well. There was one night where my emotions and my feelings were kind of just getting the best of me, and I just needed someone to talk to. And so I decided to reach out to her, and I was spilling out what was heaviest on my heart, and she took the time to listen, to support me, to give me helpful advice, to ask me questions about why I was feeling what I was feeling. She helped me make sense of the situation. And one thing that she said, because we were texting late into the night, probably like 1:30, she said, even if it took all night, I still would have talked with you. And when she said that, I was reminded of and almost overwhelmed of the feeling of, wow, this is meaningful. Wow, this is legit. Wow, this is a true friend. Do you guys have that person in your life? Maybe that person who has just been by your side through it all. Think about that person because we're going to talk a little bit about that as we carry on. So when I was thinking about the ways that Hannah was just like really loyal and she sacrificed things for me, like she was sacrificing going to bed super late at night, I was reminded of the sacrifice and the relationship that Ruth had with Naomi. So we're going to be jumping into the book of Ruth today, which I'm really excited about. So the book starts off by explaining a tragedy that unfortunately Naomi faces. So she ended up losing her husband, and then not too long after, she lost both of her sons. So she was left with her daughter-in-laws. So she was really struggling with that, and I can't imagine what was going on in her head, but I'm sure she felt like God was punishing her. I'm sure there were just a lot of negative things that were going on in her head. But despite that, Ruth said, I'm going to stick by your side. And it was very evident in what she said to Naomi. So in chapter 1, verse 16, Ruth says to Naomi, don't ask me to leave you and turn back. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you will live, I will live. Where your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Whoa, that right there is just evidence of her loyalty to Naomi, and that was basically her response to this tragedy. I know that right now seems like we're facing this crisis, right? It's like a tragedy in our lives. We're not used to this lifestyle, and we're not used to needing to change so quickly in response to something like COVID-19. But in this situation, in this tragedy, Ruth says, hey, I'm going to stick by you. And eventually they ended up needing to move to Bethlehem. So they go over there, and Ruth ends up working in some of the fields to get food for both her and Naomi. And she ends up working in this field that belongs to this guy named Boaz. And Boaz was known as a man of noble character. So he was respected. His actions were very evident of his character. And so eventually Boaz notices Ruth. Eventually, he becomes her hubby, but that's not the focus of today. Just a little side note. So as she's working in the fields, he decides to just show kindness to her, and she starts to question, why is this guy so kind to me? Why are you so kind to me? And he responds with, "But I also know about everything you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband. Oh my gosh. I have heard how you left your father and your mother and your own land to live here among complete strangers." So he ended up finding out this information from his servants. So people were talking about Ruth's decision to stick by Naomi in response to this tragedy, and she gave up so much to do that. So people were talking about it because they knew that her decision was just a reflection of who she was. And even later, Boaz refers to her as a woman of noble character, just like how people referred to him as a man of noble character. And so my question for you is, in despite of this crisis, despite all of the changes that we've faced in such a short amount of time, my question for you is, how are your actions going to reflect your character? Maybe for you right now, you don't know the answer to that question. Maybe you haven't really thought about that. Maybe that's something that hasn't crossed your mind in your free time, and maybe you've just tried to pass the time with doing some busy things. I know for me, that was a really convicting thought, because for myself, because of what I've known that God has done within my own life, I want to be able to share that with people because they can experience God too. And what better time to grow in our relationship with God than now? We have this opportunity to slow down. We have time to really invest in our relationship with God. And if you are struggling to answer that question, how is my character being revealed through my actions? Maybe we should spend some time getting to know the character of God. Because when we are able to get to know who God is, we can better know who God made us to be. And I was reminded of something that Paul said to the Ephesians. So this is in Ephesians chapter 4, verses 23 and 24. "Instead, let the Spirit renew your thoughts and attitudes. Put on your new nature, created to be like God, truly righteous and holy." How encouraging is that we don't need to be the same person walking out of quarantine than we were walking into it? How encouraging is it that the Holy Spirit can change us from the inside out so that our actions reflect that change, so that our actions reflect who God made us to be? Maybe for you that's an overwhelming thought, right? Because I know for myself, I get trapped in just thinking about the here and now. Maybe for you that's a little overwhelming because you don't know where to start, because the Bible is kind of scary. I think a great way that we can know who God is by reading the Bible. And if you need help doing that, please reach out to someone, and we would love to do that with you. How encouraging is it that our thoughts and our attitudes can be renewed? And I know that for myself, that's been a prayer throughout this whole situation, because again, it's been a roller coaster of emotions, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that too. There were so many moments when I felt discouraged. There were so many moments when I felt afraid. There were so many moments when I felt helpless because there was nothing I could do to make this situation any better, it felt like. But then I think about the light at the end of the tunnel, that this is temporary. But that the time that I spend investing in my relationship with God make a difference. So maybe for you, that's some way that you can be praying. I know that that's been my prayer for all of you, that you would use this time to really invest in your relationship with God and just learn about who God made you to be. So when we close off, I just want to ask you one more time, how are your actions going to reflect your character? And a practical next step for all of us is getting to know the character of God. And let's do that through reading, let's do that through prayer, let's do that through conversation. Because when we get back into our normal, we're going to be interacting with people that we haven't interacted with probably for a long time. We're going to be put in situations that maybe we're not used to being put in anymore. And in that, maybe there might be some temptation to go along with what everyone else is thinking or doing. But how impactful will it be when we don't fall into those habits because we've allowed God to change us from the inside out? So be thinking about that, be praying about it, and let's walk out of quarantine. Let's walk from this situation of COVID-19 different people because of what God is doing in our lives. I miss you all so much. Like, where do I begin, right? I just miss you all so much. I miss United. I miss gathering at church together. But again, this is temporary. But the time that we spend investing in our relationship with God is going to make an impact that is going to go way farther past this temporary situation of COVID-19. Praying for you guys always. I really hope to see you soon. Bye.